Hello and good afternoon. So today I'm going to start the first episode of a small series I'm going to be doing on player-owned ports. I'm going to try and take you all through, basically all the way through player-owned ports, what you could achieve, what to expect, and also just share with you some of the things I've done, some of the things I wish I had done, and also the mistakes that I've probably made. So the first thing you need to know is how to get there, and in case you don't, the easiest way to get there at first is to go to the ports are in Lodestone, and I'm sure you know how to get there, so I won't even tell you about that. Once you get to Ports are in Lodestone, just head northeast, past the little gangway area with all these pretty pigeons who crap everywhere, that kind of stuff, and you'll find a portal here. So if you enter the portal, you'll be taken to an instanced world, or area should I say. That's the player-owned port. It probably won't look like this the first time you go into it if you've never been into it before, and I believe you get some cutscene and that sort of thing from a couple of chaps who live up in this little house here. Now the first thing that you want to do is make sure that you've got this thing here in the inventory called the captain's log. We'll just pretend for a second that I've eaten mine or something like that. If you don't have one, or for some reason you need to reclaim it, just go and see this guy here, right click and reclaim log, and what that allows you to do is teleport directly outside of the player-owned ports area, which is incredibly useful. As you'll discover later, I use this all the time. I basically just leave it in my inventory all of the time, because the player-owned port area has a bank, which is your own bank that you can access, which is just up in this region here, and it has the right-click collect function and bank, which is great, and it means even things like Slayer, for example, I use this to bank for just about everything. But yeah, we'll get to that in a second. So when you first get into the player-owned ports, this is your portal in and out. The area is it's nicely made up with various buildings, and your ships are down here in these areas, these sort of dry docks, I think you call them. There's one of my ships now. Graphically, it's really, really good, actually. I think as updates go, the player-owned ports for sort of high-level content has been one of the best updates, certainly in the time that I've been playing RuneScape over the last year or so. So you want to know what to do when you get into player-owned ports. So first of all, I'll just guide you through all the interfaces, I think, for the first episode, and just make sure everybody knows where everything is. Up here on this little drop-down box, you have all your resources that you gain from port missions. We won't worry about these for too long, but if you ever want to know how much of each thing you have, it's just up under here for resources, obviously. And the other side of this little main bar is a visitor's bar. Again, I'm going to skip through kind of what these are initially, but just so you know, these display the adventurers in your ports. This is the captain for hire. The black marketeer, this just displays what trades goods he has for sale. And these things down the bottom are options that you get from random events, which again we'll cover, but generally it says visitors, so that's what it means. Down here in this right hand window, this button replaces, I don't actually know what it replaces, but anyway, when you're in the port screen you get this little button down here which is an anchor, so you know where it is, and it just shows your ships. All along here you have the ships that are available. I think you only start with one ship, possibly two. I think it's probably one. And when it's out sailing, if you click on it, it simply tells you the estimated time, and it gives you a brief mission sort of blog, and there's a little X up in the corner, and that gets you out of this screen. And any ships that are available to edit or whatever, you click down here, and this gives you the next screen, which we'll go on to in a bit. So that's where your ships are, and as I say, it just shows their status under here with sailing, and also when you click on them it says the ETA. You can also access this information, I should say, if you left click on the captain's log, you'll get a breakdown of all your ships and their ETA, so it's a lot easier and you don't have to come to your ports. That was a little update they put in, because before it just simply said that your ships were sailing, and you actually had to physically come to the port to check the ETA, which was a bit of a pain. So yeah, I would recommend generally having this with you all the time. It's kind of like farm runs in a sense. You know, some people set their timers for farm runs. You don't need to with this, because obviously it's manually there for you. So going back onto the basic interface of ports and what's available. Up here are various buttons that we'll go through now, just so you've got a good grasp of the interface. So the first one is voyages. This simply displays the voyages that are available to you. Again, if I'm being a bit vague on stuff on the first episode, that's just because I'm trying to skim over the basics, and then we'll get into the nitty-gritty stuff afterwards. So here you have voyages that are available to you. As you can see, I only have one voyage left because I've sent all mine out today or siphoned through them. So these are the normal voyages, and they are generally for chimes and the resource of the region that you're in. We'll cover that soon. And then here you have your special voyages. Now the special voyages basically are missions that relate to your adventurers, and they have to be in the port for you to get them, and you will get a different adventurer or multiple adventurers each day. As soon as you do a mission with one adventurer, all of their missions disappear. So say you have 3 different missions for the convict. If I selected this one and sent it out, the other 2 would disappear. So, but say I had 1 for the convict and 2 for the occultist. Obviously, if I send the convict's mission out, the occultist ones won't disappear. So that kind of just gives you an overview on the missions. And sometimes I forget them on the special voyages, and then click again, and I don't seem to have any missions, and I realise that's because I'm on the wrong one. But I'm a fail sometimes. The other good thing here, it displays all your ships, so you know you can select this mission, for instance, and then choose the ship that you want to use here. On this screen also you have some other little functions here, which I'll go over at a later date. The main one for now that you want to do is we will just go into the select a mission. So if we decide that we want to send this mission out, you simply click the ship here and then edit ship, and it brings you to the ship screen, which we'll cover again at a later date. Just in terms of navigation around the port, again, this button here is a crew roster, crew roster. Now this just displays all your crew members here, and it also displays the captains on the left hand side. Now I could spend ages and ages and ages talking about crew, so I think we'll just leave crew for an entirely separate episode. But again, for now, that's how you get to your crew. Your shipyard, that's just like clicking via the section down in the right here. So if you go to this and click a ship, it does exactly the same thing as clicking on your shipyard up there. I don't really use that shipyard button too often, to be honest. I just go through the menu down the bottom. Here we have upgrade buildings. Now, again, this is quite well, not complicated, but it's a lengthy sort of discussion and something that I'll talk about in the future. But this just gives you the option to upgrade your buildings for various better stats in terms of rewards, crew, attracting your adventurers, attracting different missions, and there's even some cosmetic upgrades as well. So there's an awful lot of them in here. So we'll go over those together with sort of upgrades at a later date. Your port management, this is quite an important screen here, and this is one I will talk about now. So one of the main functions of player-owned ports, as I'm sure you may or may not know, is to get the player-owned ports armors, which are currently some of the best armor in the game for its class. The 3 classes are the Tetsu armor, which is the melee, Death Lotus, which is range, and Seasinger, which is mage. Now, we'll go through how you create these various pieces of armor shortly after this, but for now, this screen just shows you how many scrolls you have. Now, to be able to make the Tetsu helm, you need all 4 scroll pieces before you even worry about having the resources to make it. Now, As you can see here, I have 2 complete scrolls and a quarter of the third one. The scroll pieces come up in your missions, and they come as a special mission from the adventurer. So the adventurer mission will come up here and it'll say a scroll piece. So because I have completed the helm and the body, I obviously still need 3 scroll pieces for the legs. At the moment I have 1 out of 4, as it says there, 1 out of 4. Here this scroll is complete, and it's the same for the Sea Singer. I have all 4 pieces for each 3 of the items. I don't have any for the Death Lotus because I haven't done them yet, but what this allows you to do, this port management screen, is to select the scrolls that your adventurers are going to bring up for you. So if I change to here and select the Death Lotus Hood, every time I get a scroll mission from an adventurer, I will no longer get the Tetsu ones, I will only get the Death Lotus Hood ones. So for now I'm going to select Tetsu because I obviously need those 3 pieces, and that's what I'm going for. Once I've got the next 3 pieces of this, I will move on to something else. But it's important to just check once in a while and remember that once you've got, say, all 4 pieces of the body, you need to move it on to another section, otherwise you won't get any scroll missions. And scroll missions are obviously quite important for getting, well, new pieces, or the ability to make them at any rate. Also along here there are scrimshaws, which I'm sure you can look up if you want to know what they all do, and down here the rocktail soup, neither of which I'm particularly interested in at the moment. My focus has always been Sea Singer and the Tetsu armour, and then it will be the Death Lotus. So this is quite an important screen just to get to grips with, and then you can select onto the right or the left. We'll go right for now, choices. Now this screen allows your captain to focus on regions of the map. So you start off in the arc, and then you go to the skull, the hook, the side, the bowl, and the pincers. I'm obviously in the final region, the pincers. And to move on to the next region, you need to gain a certain amount of distance on the world map. So when you start in the arc, you'll only get missions in the arc that have the trade goods of bamboo. So that's where you get all your bamboo from. And then funnily enough, when you move on to the skull, you'll get gunpowder and so on and so forth, right the way through to stainless steel. So each of these resources, ignoring chimes, they're the sort of universal currency within ports. Each of these resources relates to a region. But whilst I'm in the pincers, I'm receiving stainless steel. I won't be able to receive, not regularly anyways, for instance, gunpowder missions. I might get the odd one crop up now and again, but generally they will all be stainless steel missions if you're in the region for stainless steel, the pincers. Whereas, yeah, if you're in the scythe, then you'll obviously get cherrywood. So this screen here, got a bit sidetracked there, sorry. This screen here just allows you to select which region you're in. This is important for later on because you'll come to realise that when you want to do certain upgrades and develop your port more, you'll realise that you don't actually have enough of the resource from a previous region, because you generally try to rush through each region and get to the next one. So sometimes you have to go back. Say I might have been in the 4th region in the scythe, which means I would have been collecting cherrywood, but then I wanted to do an upgrade that required 1000 bamboo. I've only got 256, so I'd have to select the arc and then go back, and I would start getting bamboo missions, for instance. Now I'm sticking in the pincers just generally because the missions are longer and you gain slightly more XP when you're a lot further down the line, but I have had to go back to previous regions quite a lot. So that's another important screen to look at for the port management. And the final screen just on the navigation is the archipelago, I believe that's how you say it, map. Now what this does at first will be just this section here, and it'll be tapered off, so you won't see any of this map. And then when you get to the next section, you'll be able to see up to about here, and then when you get to the next region, up to about here, so on and so forth. So each of these sort of subdivisions of the map are the next region, and they give you all sorts of information when you hover over the islands. I'm not really sure why, but Jagex has put this silly cloud effect, which you can turn off if you really want to, or indeed turn it back on. But this just displays your progress. Now, for me, because I am all of the way through the map, I don't have progress. But the other thing it will say on this screen is progress to next region. And when you're in the lower regions, it takes a lot less time to get to the next region. And it'll say progress to next region, it'll say a percentage. So you just have to work your way through each of these regions as we discussed. And you can obviously edit them through here as to which one you want to stay in. So sometimes you might say you're in the hook and you might gain access to the scythe, but for whatever reason you could decide just to stay in the hook. There are various benefits and reasons for doing that, which again, when we get into the slightly more complicated stuff of ports, we can discuss. But for now, I think this is just going to be a sort of brief overview of where ports is, the main screens, what you can do with it, and then we can go on to the slightly more complicated and far more interesting stuff in the next episode. So for now, I think I will say goodbye and have fun, whatever you're doing.